Welcome to another edition of the Willy Bragg Show. I'm your host, Willy Bragg, and I need to take care of the lighting real quick. So give me a quick moment. I'm sorry about that. I think that should take care of the situation there. All right, I think that's a little bit better. How are y'all doing tonight? Yeah, I'm in another part of my home doing this video because I'm kind of rearranging furniture. So that's why I'm over here. So let me also take care of this because that's very unprofessional on my part. There we go. All right. Welcome to the Willy Bragg Show. I'm Willy Bragg. We're going to discuss Joy Gray versus Briahna Joy Gray. Other than their name being Joy, they also got this in common. They were sacked from their positions at the network that they worked at. And my view on their being sacked couldn't conflict anymore then any two people can be conflicted. And if you were hearing a background noise, that was my washing machine with the laundries going on. So apologize for that. So there we go. Anyway, I know the lighting is not that great, but it's going to have to do for this evening. So getting back to what I was saying, my position on Joy Reid versus Briahna Joy Gray couldn't be any further apart from each other, because I never really listened to one person named Joy Reid, and what little I have listened to her, I despise everything that's come out of her mouth. Spoiler alert. And I pretty much value pretty much everything I've ever heard from Briahna Joy Gray. And I'm not saying this in any sort of simping sort of fashion. Just for clarification. So I wanted to make that clear. So, but before we get started, we'll do the shout outs for Desert Mantis. Desert Mantis, it's almost time for Willy. It is. It's time for me. Personally, I never cared for Joy Kyle Kalinske look. Oh, you mean that Joy Reid's also got the blonde hair? I basically said she's got the Donald Trump hairstyle now, but teach us their own. Daniel Berry Sports Highlight says, "Sup, Desert Mantis," with the little figures walking around. It's like a sticky figure, human beings walking around there, and some light bulb. Yeah, because I was taking care of the lighting situation. My lighting is pretty bad in here today. So once again, I do apologize for that. That will improve tomorrow night. So I wasn't anticipating on bad lighting, but anyhow. So anyway, so glad to see y'all here. As I said, Joy Reid was sacked from MSNBC, and I have never had any use for Joy Reid. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and play an oldie referring to Joy Reid as to one of the reasons why I initially couldn't stand her. And this is from Status Quo from 2019, I believe it was. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, right here it is. And it's called Joy erases, MSNBC's Joy erases Bernie Sanders, because she was suffering from Bernie Sanders derangement syndrome. Now, I want to mention this before we do get into it. If you're on the left and you have Bernie Sanders derangement syndrome, it is justified. I've always said, after Bernie Sanders dropped out, that if you're in the camp of, well, either fuck Bernie Sanders or we got to just, whatever, when it comes to Bernie Sanders, we just can't sit there and rely on this person, a cult of personality, nothing personal, but we have to go on. And you're doing this from the left, that is valid. But if you're a simp for Hillary Clinton and you're a corporate Democrat, and in the year 2025, if you're still thinking that Bernie Sanders is more of a problem to democracy than Donald Trump, fuck you. To those Democrats that have that outlook. So anyway, this is from Status Quo. I'll play a little bit of that and I'll share my thoughts.
This clip that I just forgot to play, because it goes back to your question about the superdelegates. It's not just the superdelegates that is the problem. It's all of the coverage in the first place. Let's watch this clip, which I have to load, from our friend, Joy Reid.
And Mayor Pete calls that Medicare for all who want it. Now there's option 2, which is Medicare for all, which is at the center of Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren's campaigns. Now there's been much hand-wringing over how the country would pay for something like this, which has led Warren to release a detailed plan on just how she would fund universal single-payer health care.
Okay, stupid. when it comes to Medicare for all, who wants it the way that Pete Buttigieg was proposing back then, that's called Obamacare with an aggressive public option. Better than doing nothing, but it's not really going to solve the problem. And remember, it was a Heritage Foundation plan. Elizabeth Warren didn't know what the fuck, the snake did not know what the hell Medicare was. She was not really familiar with its concept, just like a lot of liberals in this country, including yourself. And Bernie Sanders, whatever the fuck we may think of him today, he did understand what Medicare for all meant. And honestly, Medicare for all doesn't even go far enough as far as I'm concerned. Not only should we scrap the insurance system and all that, we should scrap the insurance system. We should scrap the profit motive based pharmaceutical system, and we should just turn the United States healthcare system into something that looks like the UK National the Health Service in the UK National Health Service, or the Cuban National Healthcare System. Those are the two ways we should go forward when it comes to healthcare. Anything less is what it is, less.
So how will this affect your paycheck? Let's take a look. Okay, here's your paycheck. Oh, wow, you're doing really well. Under Medicare for All, this line, let's show this line that shows your insurance premium. Oh, here we go. We have to swipe it. Oh, there we go. Who shows your insurance premium. There it is. That would actually go away. As Rachel Maddow would say, poof. You can't see it here, but your employer's contribution also poof. So,
okay, stupid. Here's the thing about Medicare for All. If we were to go that route, on one hand, it would mean a pay raise for it. Basically, it will be transferring to a pay raise for everybody in this country, because they'll be paying far less in taxes for their insurance than they are in private premiums. Their taxes actually will not go up in the way that you want to make it out to be. And even for fucking corporations, big businesses, what will happen? They won't have to pay into it anymore, because everybody's paying into it. And that means that even individual billionaires and millionaires will still have to pay into it. And everybody's paying into it. And here's the thing. For all the capitalists out there, they whine about a capital gains tax cut. It is a disguised capital gains tax cut. And it will allow companies to come back to the United States, because medical care, labor inflation is not due to pesky unions asking too much. It's due to health insurance companies, and all companies, whether they're unionized or not, moving out of the country because healthcare is expensive. But you had that lofty job at MSNBC. You wouldn't know.
So maybe your boss will pay that money to you instead as more salary. One can hope. And then this line, swiping again, the one that shows, there it is, that shows your Medicare and Medicaid taxes, that stays the same under Warren's plan. So would your federal income tax, because Warren's plan finds other ways to pay to put everyone on Medicare. So that line also stays the same. That's why you hear her saying that your costs would go down. More healthcare, more paycheck.
Okay. The reason why, another reason why this woman is stupid is that she wouldn't have been obsessed with Trump derangement syndrome. The way she's talking about this, she could sound like somebody from Fox News. So she could get herself a job at Fox News. And who knows, maybe when Trump kicks the bucket, because Trump is not exactly the healthiest person in the world. He's not the healthiest person in the world. I mean, the orange asshole doesn't eat well. I mean, and he's not healthy as far as I'm concerned. I'm not wishing bad things on people. Only bad thing I wish, if you could call it bad, is he wasn't president. I wish he was not president. But that's all I have to say about that. Thing about it is, after the Trump era is over, she could get herself a job at at Fox News, because, she sounds like just a typical stupid person working at Fox News with this bullshit that she's handing to us on a platter.
And a tax on billionaires to pay for it all, which may be why some people are not a fan.
I've paid over 10 billion in taxes. I paid more than anyone in taxes. But I'm glad to have paid, if I'd had to pay 20 billion, it's fine. But when you say I should pay 100 billion, okay, then I'm starting to do a little math about what I have left over. Sorry, I'm just kidding.
Okay, joining me now is Wendell Potter, president of Business for Medicare for All. Okay, so Mr. Potter, yeah, that was my sort of awkward way of trying to explain Medicare for All. But did I get that basically right? That
You did.
essentially, the line where you're paying for the insurance premiums would go away,
That's right.
and the company's portion of your insurance premiums would also go away. So in effect, at least under Warren's plan, you'd end up with more money.
You'd end up with more money in your paycheck. That's one of the things that's been happening over time. And one of the reasons why people are noticing they're not getting very big raises is that the money that our employers would ordinarily give us in raises, maybe bonuses, it's going to insurance companies instead.
Right.
One of the things that people don't realize is insurance companies don't really control healthcare costs. And they don't really want to, because as healthcare costs go up, so do premiums.
Right.
That means they get more money from us to convert to profit. So they have an incentive not to control healthcare costs. The average premium for a family now is $20,000 for a policy that you get through the workplace.
Right.
So I don't even know where to start. And I'm kind of surprised because Wendell Potter, I actually like. He used to work for Big Pharma and basically has been a whistleblower ever since. He says, I was part of the people pushing the propaganda that against Medicare for All. So I'm kind of surprised he went along with this. I did a video last week on Elizabeth Warren's Medicare for All plan. But first of all, I love how Joy Reid makes it seem like Elizabeth Warren is the pioneer of Medicare for All. And her plan, which she just came up with 5 minutes ago, with Bernie Sanders, wrote the damn bill. So anyway, we know Joy Reid is deranged about Bernie Sanders. But the thing that stands out to me, I did a week or two ago, you might have missed it because you were working on the story. I put the headline, when they say Bernie's pie in the sky, I'm not a pie in the sky person. I think we have the money to pay for all this already.
Oh, absolutely.
But
We were paying and are paying for Medicare for All in places like Afghanistan all these years, places like Iraq all these years, places like the Ukraine, places like Israel. We pay for it in terms of foreign aid. Now, I know what Trump did to USAID, but we know that the Israelis are going to still get that universal health care. One of the few things not to criticize about the country. But here's the thing. Joy Reid has Bernie Sanders derangement syndrome. And I will argue, even though she's a dying-of-wool Democrat, she has Bernie Sanders derangement syndrome from the right.
Elizabeth Warren's plan is actually pie in the sky. Its provisions, I don't know if you had a chance to look at it, are, well, we're going to, the money is, we're going to put a $9,500 employer head tax on. So every employee, the company's going to have to pay $9,500. Well, as Matt Brunig pointed out at the People's Policy Project, then employers are just going to bump people down to contract or freelance to avoid having full-time workers, so that they don't have to pay the $9,500 for Elizabeth Warren's Medicare for All plan. There's no rule in her plan. There's no control. We've already seen this where Obamacare, for example, more companies started knocking people from full-time down to 30 hours or 35 hours to avoid them being full-time employees so that they didn't have to pay for their health care. So basically, Elizabeth Warren's plan, who other progressive people for Medicare for All have said, is actually going to depress jobs because employers will just skirt around that head tax by keeping people on freelance, contract, or whatever. That's just one part of it. Then the rest of her assumptions for the money that she's going to pay for it is we're going to pass immigration reform, something that hasn't happened in 30 years. We're going to pass, immigration reform. A defense cut. We're gonna cut the military, even though she's voted for both of Trump's insane military budgets that increase the military budget. So can you imagine a Bernie Sanders Medicare for All plan? Pay-fors, as Nancy Pelosi likes to put it, were just the assumptions that, we'll just pass immigration reform. So money will come from that. Oh, and we'll pass that small thing like cutting the defense budget. It's ridiculous. It is a fantasy budget. I would rather Elizabeth Warren and frankly Bernie Sanders come out and say, you know how we're going to pay for it? We're going to cut the military in half. We're going to cut the subsidies to Goldman Sachs, to Pfizer, to Raytheon. And we're going to, instead of printing money for war, we're just going to print the money for this. Because I don't even think we need to pay for Medicare for All through an increase in our taxes. But like every other civilized country, Elizabeth Warren is trying to make it, she's twisting herself into a pretzel to try and say, I'm not going to raise middle-class taxes. No, what you're going to do with your plan is cut people's jobs because they're going to lose. Companies are going to get creative so that they don't have those employees as full-time workers. And the rest of her plan, which Joy Reid is trying to make it seem like it's the gold plan for Medicare for all, is fantasy. Elizabeth Warren is not God. She's not going to just snap her finger and we're going to have immigration reform. She's also not going to snap her finger. Neither will Bernie Sanders, by the way, and get defense budget cuts. Am I?
Right. No, I agree 100%.
Well, they say I don't let you talk. So is that what is it?
Yeah, I know. That is exactly my take too.
It's ridiculous. And Joy Reid, I mean, she sets up the segment like, isn't it true that under Elizabeth Warren's plan, their paychecks will go up? So it's an inferred, it's a subtle way of trying to make it seem like Bernie Sanders' plan, your costs will go up. Elizabeth Warren's plan could possibly cut your job.
You see, the top problem is with Joy Gray, excuse me, not Joy Gray. They're both named Joy. Joy Reid and Elizabeth Warren and many others that stand for what is considered liberalism in this forsaken country, where the Overton window is so far to the right that they pass for liberalism, is that they'll do anything and everything they can except for what is considered the right thing to do, which is to be a normal country and to provide the Medicare for all. And there are many other areas where I despise Joy Reid. The woman is homophobic. I mean, she's made some homophobic statements in the past, and she is just, for a network that's supposed to be, progressive Democrat central. She's not even that much of a progressive. I mean, as much as I despise Rachel Maddow, Rachel Maddow is actually further left than she is. And I despise Rachel Maddow. I despise Chris Hayes. I despise those motherfuckers on MSNBC. That only thing that they know how to talk about is how supposedly Donald Trump was politically in bed with Vladimir Putin. And that's how come Donald Trump became president in 2016, which has been proven time and time after time again. It's not the case. So anyway, we're not finished with Joy Reid. I was listening to Kyle Kulinski actually today. What was it? Or yesterday? I work graveyard shift, folks. Forgive me. I think it was yesterday. Anyway, it was yesterday. Now remembering. And what Kyle said about Joy Reid, there's a lot that rang true, but there was a lot that just didn't add up. And I'll go ahead and start with what Kyle had to say. So let me go ahead and do just that. So let me go ahead and get everything set up over here. And I hope everybody's doing well today. Yeah, here we go. And Kyle still looks like Eminem, Dime Store Eminem.
All right, guys. So we got some big news coming out of the MSNBC world that I had to share with you here. So a few days back now, we learned that MSNBC is canceling Joy Ann Reid's show. Now, there was a time in the past where I would have probably celebrated this, because I remember during the trench warfare of the Democratic primary in 2016, she was very, very harsh on my boy Bernie.
And Kyle, you should still celebrate this. She's a fucking repugnant Karen.
She very famously brought on a body language expert to try to say that Bernie was lying about something that he was telling the truth about. She also had that moment where she was in hot water, where there were these old homophobic blogs that came out about her, and she basically lied about those in reaction to it.
Yeah, as I said, she's a bigot, and she's a horrible, despicable human being. You should be celebrating Joy Reid's termination from MSNBC.
And just like almost everybody on MSNBC, the deck was stacked against Bernie, and they were all very pro-Hillary at the time, and it just, it was just a shame, right?
Now, I would say this. I wish that everybody else could get sacked from MSNBC as well.
Having said that, a lot of time has passed since then, and there's been some major developments in global politics. One of them, of course, being the genocide in Gaza. Israel doing an outright genocide. And to my surprise, Joy-Ann Reid has been not one of the best voices on this issue. In mainstream media, literally, objectively, empirically, the best voice on this issue. She brought it up consistently. She discussed it in moral terms. She didn't let the horse race politics and her preferred candidates, she didn't let that cloud her judgment about the reality of the situation on the ground and what was happening. And she did good reporting, good commentary on that issue. So
that's not why they can her. They can her because she sucks, Kyle. That's why they can her. They didn't can her out of the whole Palestine-Israel situation. They can her because she sucks. Just because she's correct twice a day with her broken clock is no reason to commend her. That would be like saying Tucker Carlson is cool because he hated the Iraq War, or that he was the first conservative commentator to be cool with gay marriage. It's not impressive when it's uttered out of the mouth of Tucker Carlson. It's not going to be impressive when it's uttered out of the mouth of Joy Reid. But I'll let you continue.
It is no longer 2016 or 2017, y'all. It's not.
It may not be 2016, 2017 anymore. It may not be 2019 or 2020 anymore. But I remember those times, Kyle. I remember those times. And you are, of all people, and especially you have to realize you had your presidential candidate stolen from you twice by people like Joy Reid.
It's also no longer 2020, right? And the political media landscape has also shifted massively. What are we?
Yeah, it is, because you yourself did not suffer from Trump derangement syndrome then, and you have today. Now, some of the shit you're saying about Trump today is true. Now, I would agree with you, but here's the thing. You sound sometimes like one of those hysterical pink pussy hat bitches from 2016, 2017 that didn't like Trump for retarded reasons. And, so it's kind of hard to take you seriously when you do this kind of framing. But we'll let you continue.
What are we seeing? The right-wing outlets are in an insane asylum. You have Fox News, One American News Network, Newsmax, Daily Wire, which is online. You have all these different outlets. They view their role as pro-Trump, pro-Republican propagandists. That's how they view their role. And then you have what's supposed to be the liberal outlets, and let's call it what it is. Virtually all of them are both sides frauds. They're false equivalents, humpers, both sidesers. That's what they are. And the political media landscape cannot survive with a fascist coup takeover from Trump and Elon and propagandistic right-wing media and then a supposed liberal media, which is like enlightened centrist, always trying to find the middle ground, always trying to hear out Republicans and Democrats.
I know that everything's gone back to the year 1989, Kyle. I agree with you. But you also cannot look at the Democratic Party as a proper stalwart against fascism either, because they had capitulated. You yourself saying that the media and you said that the politicians are sitting there being too conciliatory toward Trump right now. So, Kyle, you have a decision to make. You can go along to get along with the Democrats and the mainstream media, or you can go and charter your own course. And look, I'm saying you're better than some of the other online major players online. You're better than David Pakman. You're better than Sam Cedar, people like that. Hell, you're better than Young Turks. But what you're doing, you're hopping along the Democratic Party blue MAGA bandwagon anyway, in spite of your choice words against how they do shit. So anyhow, I'll let you continue.
To not have any voice unapologetically telling people the truth is unacceptable, right? So as I told you guys, I was in the first days of the second Trump administration, I was like, man, I had a lot of criticism of the resistance the first time around, but at least there was a resistance. Now it seems like there's no resistance.
When you criticize the resistance the first time around, you were correct to criticize the resistance the first time around. And there's nothing wrong with formulating a resistance today against Trumpism. But joining the Democratic Party bandwagonism mentality is not the way to do it. You need to charter an independent path of resistance. And resistance that's anti-Trump, obviously. Duh. You know, you need to obviously have an anti-Trump posture. But you also need to go and look at what the Democrats have done to fuck things up and say no to that as well. You yourself said that the Justice Democrat Project failed. It failed on so many ways because they failed to do that hostile takeover of the Democratic Party. You know, when you have Laura Loomer and Nick Fuentes toasting over the hostile takeover of the Republican Party, you know, a neo-Nazi Latino male who's a closeted gay individual, and versus this Jewish woman who might be transgender, who's obviously has neo-fascist inclinations herself, toasting to a hostile takeover of the Republican Party. You know, as much as I despise those two, Nick Fuentes and his groypers, and Laura Loomer and her loony, weird-looking, space alien-looking face that could be in the movie, what's the movie, Saw? They succeeded where your fucking Justice Democrats miserably failed, Kyle. So, anyway.
Right? And then what have we seen since then? All of the, at the very least, the cable news anchors who were simply anti-Trump, they're axing all of them. Jim Acosta was a big anti-Trump guy. Again, I have issues with him. I don't agree with him on everything. But now CNN is axing one of the only anti-Trump hosts, right? MSNBC. Somehow Morning Joe gets 57 hours on air per day when they go and eat sushi with Trump at Mar-a-Lago after calling him Hitler. All of a sudden, we got to wipe the slate clean. So here's Joanne Reid. One thing you can rely on her for, being consistently anti-Trump. Now,
she's anti-Trump, but she's anti-Trump for the stupid reasons many of the pink pussy hat people are anti-Trump. I'm not impressed with Joy Reid. And Kyle, you talk about the media and, you know, being complicit with the establishment, you know, playing footsies with Trump and all that. And all the real anti-Trump people being casted aside. You have a very large platform. Here's the thing with your very large platform. You could use your leverage and you could use your platform basically to create new alternatives out there, new alternative medias out there to work with people in alternative media rather than to be trying to strive to be the next anchor for MSNBC, which frankly, I think that's what's happened to you. But anyway, my suggestion is for you to go ahead and try to make some sort of peace with Jimmy Dore and try to, you know, and he needs to swallow some of his pride too. In that regard, because I remember when you two were allies at one time, and I was impressed when you both were allies. I got some words with choice words with him, with some of the guests he's had lately himself. But suffice to say, and I have a video that's on the back burner about this sort of thing, but in the near future. But here's the thing: carve a space that's going to be different. Have a real resistance that is anti-Trump, but it's also anti what passed for liberalism today. And and don't give Joy Reid any credit. She doesn't deserve any credit, Kyle.
They're axing her. So why? Well, look, first, let me just point this out. It's kind of curious how many examples there have been of Black female hosts that MSNBC has gotten rid of, right? Melissa Harris Perry, Tamron Hall, I believe it is, Joyanne Reid. There's been a number of Black female hosts that they seem to let go of pretty quickly. So that's one point I just wanted to throw out there. But the more important thing is this.
They also let go of Phil Donahue, and they also let go of Jesse Ventura and people like and Schultz. What's the name? Ed Schultz. They're not Black females, but the reason why they got rid of them was policy oriented policy, and and I think that's what happened with Joy Reid. She's not a great talk show host. It has nothing to do with her identity. It's just that she sucks. She sucks. That's what it comes down to. I mean, don't worry. Maybe The View will have her. So anyway, I disagree with you, Kyle. I really do. Yeah, I really do. It's great that she's talking about Palestine and everything, but I don't think that's why they went and gave her the sack. You couldn't be more wrong, Kyle. You really couldn't be more wrong. So that's what I have to say about that. When it comes to the whole situation there with Joy Reid. Now let's go with we'll keep in the situation with termination, because we're going to contrast her termination with the termination of someone else that happened last year. Someone that Kyle, somebody that I would suspect that you respect a great deal. Somebody deserving of that respect way more than Joy Reid. And I'm referring to Briahna Joy Gray. So let's go ahead and here she is with Kim Iverson talking about
Briahna, welcome to the show. It's so great to see you.
It's a real pleasure to be reunited with you, Kim, since we last were side by side on The Hills Rising.
What in the world? So little birds have told me, of course I still have connections at Rising. I'm sure, we all do, right, from having been there. So some people have told me that they believe that they were just waiting for a reason to let you go because they were just not thrilled with all of the Israel. You were doing such a great job of talking about Israel, talking about the Palestinians, but they weren't really hot for that, apparently. So they were just looking for a reason. Did they ever take you aside and say anything to you?
No. So I think I have been vocal since the beginning, but especially after Katie Halper was fired, or her contract, they chose not to work with her anymore after she did a radar on Israel, calling it an apartheid state that they would not allow to air. Ever since then, I've been very open about the extent to which my employment there was contingent on my ability to truthfully cover the news, including any critique of Israel that is obviously factually supported and true, without there being any pushback. And really, doing Rising at all was pitched to me as a place where I could have a platform to speak to a more ideologically diverse audience that I might have on my own podcast, and talk about issues that normally don't get a big airing in a corporate media space. So they understood that was the entire draw for me. And I think Robbie in particular really understood that I wasn't someone who was there for purely financial motives, that I was willing to walk away. And Robbie, as you know, has really been through it in terms of different hosts coming in and out, and
Well,
having
they keep pushing us out.
exactly,
For Robbie.
exactly. And I do think he did a lot of work to try to insulate me from the pressures. When I said this was a problem, I think that he frankly tried to not let me in on all of the pressures he was experiencing as someone who was like a full-time employee there as opposed to a contract employee about the messaging of the show.
So let's talk about that for a second. So Robbie is now an actual employee of Nexstar.
Yeah, as I understand it, yeah.
Yeah. And did they ever offer you a contract to become an employee?
Yes. So they wanted me to. And I had some reservations about things exactly like this. Am I going to be precluded from speaking out because of an NDA if I sign on to a longer term contract? Am I going to be precluded from walking away if and when they do start exerting more editorial control over me because I've signed a contract? I really came onto Rising feeling like it was a temporary thing. They needed someone to fill in. They were struggling to find, balance with the show and having an in-person left chair host for Robbie. And it just kind of became over time a regular gig. They had to convince me to go from 3 days to 4, for instance, and be more of a full-time presence on the show. So
I want to interrupt here. So she got her job at Rising, as she's explaining how she had the job, how it became a permanent thing. And Kim Iverson also had a job at Rising, and she got sacked. And she and Briahna Joy Gray had the same position on the Israeli-Palestinian crisis, but that was not why they sacked Kim Iverson. They sacked her over something else. But the point I wanted to make is, and they did sack Katie Halper, who is Jewish, over that issue, who also has the same position on Israel, Palestine, along with Kim Iverson and Briahna Joy Gray. And the point is this: without a doubt, Briahna Joy Gray got sacked from Rising, from the Hill, over cancel culture. That's why she got fired. In 1990, on the McLaughlin group, I don't have the video, but in 1990, in the McLaughlin group, when Saddam Hussein went and took over Kuwait, and there was the impending war, first Gulf War that was to take place, Pat Buchanan basically made some anti-Semitic overtones about why we're over there in the Middle East, and he says something about people named Smith and Jones are basically going to die because of people with names like Kissinger and Solars and people like that, which is anti-Semitic, and Pat Buchanan can fuck off for that. Composed the Iraq War, both Iraq wars, while blaming Jews for it. You can do that. And if you're going to go, now, I have said that and it's noted that Benjamin Netanyahu encouraged George W. Bush and Tony Blair to go into Iraq. But I'm not going to say it's because he's Jewish. I'm going to say because as somebody who's barely a human being, referring to Benjamin Netanyahu, he's a sack of shit. Has nothing to do with the fact that of his ethnicity. Robert Mugabe was a horrible piece of garbage of a human being when he was the prime minister of Zimbabwe. But does that make him? That's not representative of all Black people. Robert Duarte of the Philippines, being a horrible president of that country, cracking down on civil liberties does not make all people who are Asians horrible people. So, I'm just making that as a point right there. And another point I'm trying to make is not anti-Semitic to go and criticize Israel. And they made Briahna Joy Gray who's worked very closely with Glenn Greenwald during the days of The Intercept. Someone who's close friends with Katie Halper. I don't mean like, well, my best friend is this minority group. I don't mean like that. I mean that you kind of know that they're very good friends. She worked for Bernie Sanders as the national press secretary. And if you study and followed her over the years, you know she does not have a hateful bone in her body. Versus Joy Reid, where you could just tell who she hates. So I'm just making the comparison right there. And so, you compare that to, you compare the two, as far as the two Joys. And why should I have any sympathy for Joy Reid? There's none. People acting like it's the biggest thing on the news right now. Well, maybe I'm being a little too online. Maybe that's what it is, because I kept on hearing it in the last few days about her being always online. Being always online, hearing about how Shimon Sanders and Michael Steele, I believe his name, will be taking over. Big whoop. They don't speak on my behalf either. It's MSNBC, for crying out loud. I mean, even old Sam Cedar, who I'm not a fan of, he was dealt with a bill of goods when they fired him over a decade ago over a stupid joke by some right-wing asshole named Michael Cernovich. So, but anyhow, what I want to say is that, the double standard is, I heard a lot of people talking so much junk about Briahna Joy Gray when she got canned from the Hill, like she deserved it. But, Pat Buchanan ended up keeping his job. And Joy Reid, we got to go boo-hoo-hoo-hoo over Joy Reid. I don't get that. And I refuse to get that. So that's where I stand. Warren, how are you doing today? I hope whatever you got, if it's some kind of a bug, I hope you get better. Sorry that you're not going to be doing any live streaming this week, but I hope you get better. So anyway, folks, that's probably going to be it for me tonight. I'm going to, Disoriented, where did that go? Disoriented Boathouse says, best viewers on Steam Boo, remove the space. Okay. I know some kind of advertisement and everything, so I'm just being a smart ass or a dumbass, depending on how y'all want to look at it. Okay, I'm going to head on out, but I just wanted to let y'all know I had another show planned up earlier this evening, but I felt like maybe Joy Reid and Briahna Joy Gray needed to be discussed, so that was discussed and everything. So if you like what you heard, please press like and comment. Comment any way if you disagree with what I have to say. Feel free to share the content on this channel. As a First Amendment absolutist, it's my duty to inform you to create your own platform and utilize it, because we are, in fact, the muckrakers of our time. I will say this. Hi, Earl. I would say that also reject corporate media. Subscribe to the Willy Bragg Show on all my platforms here. And until next time, let's work on seeing to it that Ed Snowden is fully freed and pardoned. Let's also work toward, well, he's free in another country. But let's see that he becomes free to come back to the United States without prosecution, is what I'm saying. Free and pardon Ed Snowden, free Palestine, free health care for all, and of course, preservation of free speech absolutism. And until next time, fuck Joy Reid. Y'all take care. Have a good night. Bye-bye.